Hello friends, I am Chintan Joshi from Nalanda Vidyalay, Virpur Morbi, and in the class of 12th Commerce, we are discussing subject Business Studies. In our discussion of video series, we are discussing chapter number 4, Planning, whereas we have completed total 3 topics in the discussion. We have discussed the introduction, concept and definition of planning in our first video lecture of this video series. We have discussed the features of planning in the second video, and in the third video we have discussed about importance of planning. In this video we are going to discuss about limitations of planning. There are basically 6 limitations of planning. Number 1, planning leads to rigidity. Number 2, planning may not work in dynamic environment. Number 3, planning reduces creativity. Number 4, planning involves huge cost. Number 5, planning is a time consuming process. And number 6 is planning does not guarantee success. Apart from these basic 6 limitations of planning, we are going to learn and discuss about external limitations of planning in this video itself. Let me discuss these topics in detail. First limitation, planning leads to rigidity. In an organization, a well-defined plan is drawn to achieve some specific goals within a specific period of time. These plans laid down the future course of action, and it is not possible for the managers to change them. They have to strictly hold on to the formulated plans irrespective of changes in the environment. Over here, it explains like that. In an organization, there are some plans on which managers are working. They want to achieve some specified goals within the specified time period. Though they are going to strictly follow the planning they have made for their future events, they are not going to change into them. Because they are strictly holding this planning, sometimes it happens that the changing in the environment is affecting on this strict planning. Let me have example. XYZ Limited have planned with specific goals to achieve 10% increment in the profit in this financial year. Specific time period is financial year. This financial year, specific goal is to achieve profit increment in this financial year, so that they have formulated to give discount to their customers at the rate 10%. Now after few months, the competitors, their rivals, offering 15% discount to the market. In this scenario, if they are going to strict with their planning, previous planning to offer 10% discount, they are not surviving into the market because their rival firms, their competitors are offering 15% discount to the customers. If they are increasing discount rate to 10% to 15%, they are not going to achieve their desired goal of generating profit in this financial year. At that time, they are also in the loss. So, whenever planning leads to rigidity, it is not suitable for the organization. Such inflexibility may prove to be costly for the organization when the situation changes. Hence, it is not the organizational interest to follow a particular plan when circumstances have changed. Therefore, rigidity in plans may create difficulty in the organization. Hope so. First limitation of the planning is very much clear with you guys. Second limitation, planning may not work in dynamic environment. We are familiar in the respect of chapter number 3 that business environment is a totally dynamic one. Whenever business environment keeps on changes, planning will not work at that scenario. The environment in which a business exists is very dynamic. The various forces of business environment like social, economical, political, technological and legal keeps on changing, and the organizations have to adopt themselves to these changes. Thus, it becomes very difficult to forecast the future when the economic policies of the government keeps on changing continuously, or when there is a political instability in the country, or if there is a natural calamity, it will affect our planning. So we can say that when the environment is a dynamic, planning may not work over there. Hence, these are the obstacles in the way of effective planning. So it is very difficult for the organization to move with their desired planning in the dynamic environment and a changing atmosphere. Second limitation of planning, clear. Limitation number 3, planning reduces creativity. Usually we have observed that in an organization, planning function is performed by top level management, and middle level management and operational level management are going to execute that plannings. Rest of the members are required to implement these plannings which have been formulated by the top level management. What happens at all? As a result, middle level management and other members are neither allowed to deviate from plans nor they are granted authority to act on their own. Hence, most of the initiative and creativity in them gets reduced. They only carry out the orders and do not even attempt to formulate plans by their own. It is very simple to understand that when top level management is going to formulate a specific plan, middle level management and operational level management are going to execute those plans which were instructed by top level management. If middle level management or operational level management wants to change or update that plans according to the situations, they are not allowed. Even they are not granted to think by their own with some creativity and innovations to improve those plans at the ground level or at the real platforms. That's why planning reduces creativity amongst the members at the level of middle level of management and operational level of management. Limitation number 3, clear. Limitation number 4, planning involves huge cost. Now, what is huge cost for an organization? Huge cost involves in the formation of plan. This huge cost is terms of money, time, efforts, etc. For example, a lot of time and efforts are involved in scientific calculations to ascertain fact and figures and to check the accuracy of fact while formulating a plans. Lots of time is also affected while an organization is going for the scientific research. Likewise, a lot of money and efforts are spent on boardroom meetings while top level management or middle level management are going to plan something for the upcoming year, or they are preparing budgets in the board meetings. Lots of money for their training aspect, lots of time in terms of their discussions with experts and preliminary investigations to find out the effectiveness of their plans will result into the huge cost. Moreover, sometimes the cost incurred in the formulating plans turns out to be higher than the benefits actually received from these plans. So, times, money, efforts of humans, as well as duration of discussion and implementation of the plans are more higher than the actual conversation or outcomes of the plan. This way, we can say that planning involves huge cost. Limitation number 4, clear. Limitation number 5, planning is a time consuming process. Sometimes a lot of time is taken in formulating the plans. We know that planning is a thinking process. Before going to execute the plan, we are thinking a lot. Say for example, if a person is going to start his own business enterprise, he have to work out a lot before starting the enterprise. It is a time consuming process, as a result of which very less time is left to implement these plans. Planning is a lengthy process, and hence it could cause delay in the action. Lot of time is consumed in collection and analysis of data and choice of alternatives, etc. As I said, when a person is going to start his own business enterprise, he will go for lots of analyzing the market scenario. He is going for the collection of the data. He is going to choose the best alternative options for startup. Thus, it will take a lots of time in the process of the beginning of an business enterprise. So we can say that it is very less time left to implement these plans in compared to actual thinking process. Thus, planning is not useful when on the spot decisions or faster decision making is required. Say for example, in an organization, while immediate decision making is required, it happens that thinking process and collection of data and analyzing that data and choosing out of the best alternatives will consume a time, and it will affect not to take proper decision on the time. Again, those that example, when a business enterprise is going to start by a particular person, it may happen that a person is thinking to start ice cream parlor in the season of summer, but when he is collecting data and analyzing these things and choosing a best alternative of options, it might happen that 1 or 2 months passed away in this summer, and when actually he wants to earn or take to opportunity tapping the time, he might be failed, right? So this way we can say that planning is a time consuming process, because time will be consumed behind the research work, right? Point number 6, planning does not guarantee success. An organization is successful only when plans are efficiently drawn and implemented. A plan must be converted into worthwhile actions, otherwise it becomes meaningless. Simply, if we say that before the actions we need to take, we are just formulating the plans, it is meaningless for the us. Generally, it is seen that managers are in the habit of depending on previously tried and tested successful plans. Basically, what happens that managers are in that habit that what happened in the previous events and exercises, they are just trying to follow that one. But this assumption sometimes never work and may actually lead to failure instead of success because the scenario in the past might be different in the execution where we have planned something, and in the present whatever the scenario is there, if we are going to execute the past experiments in current situations, it might happen that we might be failed in the paths of our success. So whenever we are going to plan for the future, we are just going to analyze the past data, right? At that time we can say that planning does not guarantee the success because future is totally uncertain and unpredictable, and it also happens that our past experiments may not affect the future happening too. Point number 6. Clear, guys? These are the basic 6 limitations. Apart from this, some external limitations of planning is also given into your syllabus. But let me clear over here that whenever you are going to be asked a straightforward question that write down the limitations of planning, you need to explain 6 basic limitations of planning. In addition, you may write external limitations of planning according to the weightage of your marks and question. Clear? Let me discuss external limitations of planning. There are 6 external limitations. Number 1, technological changes. Number 2, innovations. Number 3, changes in the environment policies. Number 4, competitive products. Number 5, changes in the fashion, taste and preferences of the customers. Number 6, act of God or natural calamities. External limitations of planning directly or indirectly indicates the external scenario of the environment. We know that external factors of a business environment are not in our hands. We cannot do anything influence in this external scenario or business environment. We are preparing planning for internal development of the business environment, internal correction and upgradation of the business environment. But we are helpless to change external factors of business environment through our planning. That's why it becomes limitations for us. Say for example, we cannot update technological change in the environment. Whatever the technological change happens in the business environment, we have to adopt that changes. If we fail to adopt that technological changes of the business environment, we also fails. Say for example of Nokia Android version versus Nokia old Windows applications. Nokia failed to adopt the changes and thus they becomes failure into the market. They were rigid with their strict window based planning methodology. That's why it becomes limitations. Second one, innovation. Again we can correlate example of Nokia. Android applications were innovated into the market, but Nokia failed to adopt that. Number 3, changing in the government policy. Sometimes it happens that GST were implied after the government policies changes, but if we are rigid, if we are strict to our planning, we might be fail. Competitive products, we have to upgrade ourselves with the competitive era. If we are not updated with the production or products that we are offering to the market, we might be felt. Changing in the fashion taste and preferences of the customers. If fashion taste and preferences of the customers are changes, we have to plan accordingly. If we are not planning accordingly, at that time it becomes external limitations for us. Last one is act of God or natural calamities. Sometimes we are best planning for the success part, but act of God or natural calamities spoil our plannings as a part of external environment, right? So these are the external limitations of planning which we have discussed, which we have highlighted for your reference. Hope your basic 6 limitations of planning as well as your 6 external limitations of planning are very much clear with you guys. Still, if you have any doubts, please feel free to ask me. Thank you, friends.